Well, hello. My name is Todd Flora. I'm the publisher of Westside Voice, and I'm here today with Ellis Raskin, who is a planning commissioner here in the city of Santa Monica, where I happen to live, and a candidate for Santa Monica City Council this fall. And he's joined me today to answer a few questions that will make its way into eventually probably into an article covering the race. We also plan on putting as many candidate interviews as we can on our YouTube channel. Ellis, let's start out with housing because it's such a critical issue. What is your stance on new housing construction and the new RENA numbers?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk with you today. Housing is definitely a key issue moving forward over the next few years. And it's one where I've been in the front lines of addressing those issues as a planning commissioner. As you know, we're wrapping up work soon on the sixth cycle housing element, which is a comprehensive plan for addressing how the city can zone to accommodate the housing capacity that we're going to need over the next 8 years here. And that's going to include roughly 9,000 units, roughly 6,000 of which
it's a big ask.
Are affordable units. And if cities don't produce a legally compliant housing element, there's some pretty significant consequences. I am of the opinion that we need to leverage a range of resources to get us the affordable units that have been assigned to the city and that we need. I don't think that inclusionary programs alone are going to get us to the numbers that we need. And frankly, absent some new funding sources that come in, we have one that's been proposed on the ballot this November in Santa Monica. But absent those funding sources, it's going to be difficult to get the affordable housing numbers that have been assigned to us.
Yeah.
So we've got to work with regional partners to address what really is a regional and statewide housing crisis, and think broadly about how we can address affordability and protect both renters and property owners in Santa Monica in a way that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm just going to share my opinion here, and I probably will with other candidates as well. I think the state needs to be doing a lot more. I think those RENA numbers are a huge unfunded mandate without the state ponying up real dollars to make sure the housing is actually affordable. But that's just me. Let's get back to you. I have a question, and this one is specifically, I'm going to ask this question of all the candidates, but what is your feeling on development in general? And in your case, I do have something that I need to share the screen with you on. Somebody sent me the following from Facebook, and it was, here it is. How do I do that? And it was something you said in response to some, I know, very slow development advocates. And it's you saying, feel free to reach out to me if you learn to learn more about my perspectives on development. Since joining the Planning Commission, I voted against more projects than any other commissioner. And that's fine, but the people that sent it to me, to be honest, were concerned that you meant everything, including housing. Were you referring to commercial, housing, everything in general? When you said this, I know some folks want to know.
Yeah, I wasn't referring to any specific type of project, and it's just it happens to be a fact that I take a very strict view as to how planning and zoning laws should be applied, and that includes laws that require strict review of environmental impacts for projects. And I'm not doing this with any type of agenda in mind. I'm doing it because I think that people on city council and planning commissions need to strictly guard the ways in which planning and zoning laws are enforced. And to be honest with you, a lot of the housing projects that I've voted against were ones that had very minor defects in the ways in which they were providing affordable housing. And I did it because we need to strictly, or make sure that projects are strictly complying with their requirements to provide meaningful, affordable housing to residents. And these laws cut both ways. Just as you have to strictly enforce laws that require projects to comply with inclusionary requirements, that require projects to comply with development standards, setbacks, what have you. At the same time, if there's a law that says that a governing body doesn't have discretion to disapprove a project, then you have to strictly comply with that law too.
Yeah,
So
right.
it really goes to just a matter of people in government being proper stewards of planning and zoning and the public good and the social contract that underlies all of those laws. They're based on a shared reciprocity of all of us agreeing to abide by these laws, and I take the obligation to enforce those laws strictly.
Okay, very good. Next question. Let's talk about tourism in downtown. How do we get that area going again? How do we get these, vacancies filled and people back downtown? Do you have
Yeah,
any particular ideas on that?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and one that I've had a few conversations about recently with some stakeholders downtown. Honestly, there are many layers to this. I mean, we're still recovering from the COVID pandemic. Businesses downtown generally have seen a slow bounce back for a lot of reasons. I think one issue that's at the forefront of many people's mind is the fact that there are a substantial number of people downtown who are experiencing homelessness, who are living on the Third Street Promenade and are really in a desperate situation. And of course, we need to leverage all of the resources we possibly can, both in Santa Monica and regionally, to provide meaningful public health and mental health responses to address homelessness. And I think that once we have those strategies in place, it will help address business downtown. It'll help our city's brand and image. But at the same time, we also need to work very closely with individuals in the hospitality industry and stakeholders to make sure that they're empowered to succeed over the next few years.
Okay.
We recently talked to the Planning Commission about permanent changes to planning and zoning laws that will help spur economic revitalization over the next few years. And these are laws that were in place since May 2020 as a stopgap measure to help businesses during COVID. And I think that we're going to have a deeper and broader conversation over the next few years about how we can reimagine regulatory reforms to help businesses and help honestly keep our city an internationally recognized tourist destination and help businesses bounce back from COVID.
Right. What's an example of a regulatory reform that we would need to help businesses? Do you have one in mind?
Yeah, I mean, some of the stuff we've been talking about involve certain by right permitting for businesses that would otherwise require some pretty comprehensive review, either at the Planning Commission or elsewhere. I think some of that makes sense. I think you do want to have scrutiny, for example, over new lodging establishments, for example, on the promenade. I think you do want to have some opportunity for public input and scrutiny about that. But on the flip side, I've talked to a whole bunch of small business owners here in Santa Monica who honestly are really hanging on by a thread and have to jump through a lot of hoops to get things like a parklet approved or even just to get a break on business taxes that might have been overpaid.
Oh, I
So,
see. Okay. All right.
ensuring that we don't unnecessarily burden people in ways that don't make sense is something that we're continuing to address as a city.
Okay. Now you mentioned homelessness and people actually living on the Third Street Promenade. Los Angeles has adopted something called Ordinance 4118. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's essentially the ordinance that says, and they've expanded it since it initially passed last year. It basically says if it's a public right of way, you can't pitch a tent. They've recently expanded it, and it brought a lot of protesters downtown to City Hall to can't camp 500 feet near a school or a daycare center. Do you think Santa Monica needs something like this?
No, I don't think that's the way to approach the issue. I think, you know, most folks who are experts in this field are on the same page that really public health interventions and responses that address the underlying systematic and institutional bases for homelessness, um, excuse me, are ones that that don't get addressed simply by putting a you know a policing or criminalizing measure on the back end of it. Reports here in Santa Monica show that approximately 75% of individuals experiencing homelessness experience either some combination of mental health and or drug issues. And so, ensuring that our first responders have the tools and resources to address those issues are really a top priority. And in addition to that too, understanding that we need to work very closely with regional partners in the LA area to address this as a region-wide issue is going to be key. Um, I understand that many people will encounter individuals experiencing homelessness on a day-to-day basis and perhaps not understand just how complex and deep this issue is as a regional and statewide and in fact national issue. This is going to take some real hard work in terms of working with our partners outside of Santa Monica to address this.
Okay, very good. Um, what is your overall philosophy on public safety? And do you think the Santa Monica Police Department should employ more officers?
Yeah, well, I mean, right now we're, as I understand it, at about 80% of capacity. So, I mean, we have to make sure that we have people, with sufficient staffing levels to address, the needs of our community. I think, we have over the last few years been reimagining the ways in which we can deploy our resources to address public safety. And getting back to our previous point, one of those is ensuring that resources are allocated towards public health responses to homelessness. I don't necessarily think that calls for a staffing reduction of police per se, but it does involve some critical thinking about what types of people we're hiring. And honestly, too, not just here in Santa Monica, but across the country, police departments are having a really hard time recruiting new members. I mean, it's not an easy job by any means to be a police officer or to work in public safety. And certainly post 2020, I think that many jurisdictions are rethinking the ways in which they're recruiting on their forces. And, I think we're seeing that here in Santa Monica as well.
Okay, all right. Now, I know you a little, and I've seen you, on your campaign website, which you're welcome to plug if you'd like. You've spoken about the importance of renter protections. Can you elaborate on your priorities with regard to renters and what we should be doing to help?
Yeah, absolutely. And
the number of rent burdened is staggering.
Yeah, and I mean, look, Todd, you know about this as well as anyone, given your work on the the rent board and advocacy for this issue. And folks can learn more if you go to electellis.org. I'm the only renter right now on the planning commission, and it,
Is that right?
We have I think two renters now on the city council, but it's possible that if I were elected, I could be the only renter on the city council. I'm living here in the Pico neighborhood where folks on my street are paying as much as 60 or 70% of their income towards rent and are just impossibly rent burdened. And these are folks in rent controlled units who have been here for quite a long time. Todd, as you know, I mean, this causes real world impacts. Folks are sacrificing meals. I mean, the psychological stress that it puts you under is unbelievable.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we need to first of all ensure that rent control survives for the next foreseeable future. It's been under attack by folks who want to reimagine the underlying premises of rent control.
Mhm.
I am 100% committed to preserving rent control and ensuring that our renters have predictability in their rents and can stay in their homes for the long term. Um, we need to think of other creative solutions to bring down rent burdens. The the new housing that we've seen come to Santa Monica in the last year often consists of a $3,000 a month studio or a $5,000 a month one bedroom. It's completely unaffordable to folks who want to just start a life here. I'm I would like to see the city implement rent subsidy programs, perhaps in some form of universal basic income. I'd like to see the city implement some common sense solutions that have worked in other cities like San Francisco and Chicago, where folks can get emergency rental assistance if they're short, only $200 or $300 in rent per month. In San Francisco, you can go up to a counter and get a no interest loan, get the $200 you need to stay in your apartment. And this has been tremendously effective in keeping folks in their home and helping to address systematic homelessness and housing insecurity. But then also, ensuring that we have, habitability protections in place.
Mhm.
I've talked to dozens of folks over the last few months who, are struggling with harassment and habitability issues, and we need to make sure that our enforcement team on the city, which is really good and diligent in prosecuting these issues, but we need to make sure that our code enforcement staff and city attorney team are able to deal with a large scale problem across the city that requires a lot
Mhm.
of resources to address.
Okay. Will you be supporting the measures the Rent Control Board is asked to put on the ballot this fall?
Yeah, absolutely. And I wish some of them had gone a little bit farther. For example, the 3 year movement requirement for landlords, and
Oh, I know.
I would have liked to have seen the opportunity for a third term for rent board commissioners. But I'm hopeful this will be an iterative process, and we can continue to work
Yeah.
forward and implement these strategies as we move forward.
Yeah. Yeah. What about the competing tax measures on the ballot? Are you supporting either, both, neither?
Yeah, I mean, I understand that they have ballot letters that were assigned in the last few days, and forgive me for not knowing them
I
off the
don't know
top
them
of my
yet
head.
either.
Yeah,
I got to
but
look those up. Got to do my job.
yeah, the measure that's colloquially known as Mayor Sue Hilmorich's measure is one that I've endorsed and am supporting. It's going to bring desperately needed funds to protect renters, keep people in their homes, and really serve as an otherwise non-existent funding mechanism for the programs that I just mentioned. Um, and to the point we were talking about earlier about needing to meet arena requirements lest
Yeah.
some consequences come into place. It will help ensure a funding mechanism for affordable housing production that doesn't exist right now. I also would like to see funding provided for for parks, for libraries, and I'll have Todd, that at the city council hearings, I drafted an alternative version of that other measure that would have functioned as a parcel tax instead of a transfer tax, and wouldn't
Oh,
have been a
yes,
competing
that's right.
measure.
Thank you for reminding me. Thank you.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that did not get support from the city council, but it would have been an ideal compromise measure to get funding for all of those sources. Um, there was some talk on the dais about how there had been some studies about how a parcel tax directed solely towards libraries would not have had 50% support from voters based on some anecdotal polling. But the polling showed that the voters did want to, in fact, see um, additional resources for parks and for homelessness intervention. And
Mhm.
we will get funding for homelessness interventions through Mayor Himmelrich's measure. But um, you know, some numbers got tossed around in a way that didn't really quite characterize the chances of success of that parcel tax that I had drafted, and I'm disappointed that we're not going to be able to see it on the ballot this year.
Yeah, I wasn't sure, to be honest. I struggled with whether or not to support your idea because I'm a guy that lives in a parcel.
Yeah.
And believe me, I've voted myself higher property taxes at every chance I've gotten, but money's tight. And I like that the both those measures go after the big earners, but maybe your idea would have been better. So really, I'm not going to keep you too long here, but the last question is, how are you going to win? Have you raised enough money to be competitive? Do you see a way to those dollars that you need? And what is your key to pulling off a win? Will it be key endorsements? Will you be vying for SMER or the Democratic Club or both? Law enforcement endorsements? Tell me how you're going to win this thing.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you first of all, we're running a very streamlined campaign, and we have a good network of supporters who are going to be out there on the streets canvassing for us. In terms of a ground game, you'll see us out there, you'll see us on the streets, you'll see us knocking on doors, we'll be getting our voice out there, and really, the evidence of the last 2 years has shown that the ground game is key to success, both at the local and statewide and national levels as well.
I thought, if I could just interject, I don't want to stop your flow. Keep thinking of how you're
sure,
going to
yeah.
win. I thought the Democratic Party erred tremendously in 2020 by not hitting door to door. I worked for the census that year. Nobody minded that I came to their door so long as I was wearing a mask. Nobody minded. And I think the Democratic Party really erred nationally not doing that. But anyway, back to you.
Yeah, and I mean, to your point, Todd, I mean, in some areas where the Democrats were able to find success, especially in the Southwest and Arizona and Nevada, folks were out there going door to door. The folks from Unite Here and their allies were out there on the ground in Las Vegas and Phoenix and knocking on doors. So, there are some key lessons to be learned there. I've been honored to receive the endorsement from Mayor Sue Himmelrich. I am going to be applying for the SMER and Democratic Club endorsements. This year, the endorsement process, I think for many organizations is later than it usually is. So, I've got a few dozen endorsement applications that are pending right now that will be resolved over the next few weeks. Many folks around town are holding their personal endorsements pending how things shake out with some of the organizational support that will come. I'm hopeful I'll get support from some other key organizations like the Sierra Club, for example. We'll have to see where that all goes, but in terms of connecting with voters, I've found great success, and these are things that can be done, in a streamlined way without, needing to pour necessarily a six-figure set of funds into it. And so, I'm looking forward to connecting with voters over the next 6 weeks here.
Okay, well, that's really all I had. I wanted to just get to the heart of some of the key issues with the half hour that we have, and I want to thank you for participating. I will let you close, though, with anything else that I didn't ask about or anything you want to add for anybody that is able to watch, as a kind of a closing statement.
Yeah, and thank you again for giving me this opportunity to talk with you. It's always great to connect in these issues in a deep and meaningful way. And I'm glad we had a chance to dive into the nitty gritty of some issues that are really at the heart of what we're going to have to be working on as a city over the next few years. Just to remind folks, I've been working on the Planning Commission for the last few years. I'm now serving as the vice chair. In my day job, I work as a environmental land use attorney, and I work with public agencies both to ensure that sustainability programs are implemented successfully, but also that folks and stakeholders and local governments are able to engage in meaningful regional planning processes successfully. And through my work, I've helped save open space in the Santa Monica Mountains. I've helped protect coastal access. I've helped keep parks open. So when it comes to actually fighting on the front lines to protect the environment, to protect renters, and to work with local and regional stakeholders to make successful change happen, I have an unparalleled track record of success, and I look forward to continuing to work with Santa Monicans to help build a brighter future and to help address the key issues that are in front of us, including homelessness, including affordability, including rent protections. We've got a lot of work to do, and I look forward to working with everyone.
Okay, Ellis Raskin, thank you so much for your time today, and good luck on the campaign trail.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate you talking to Westside Voice.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Bye now.